This week we talk about literacy and the assessments we use in literacy. And this week we read chapter 10 in our book and a couple of articles, all relating to all of these principles of literacy that are important as we teach our students. According to chapter 10, there's 5 principles of reading assessments. The first one is choosing the right tool. We want to make sure that when we're using assessments, that we're not just trying to get them completed and done, we're actually using them to accomplish the goal that we're trying to accomplish. And then the second principle with that same thing is making sure we're choosing the right tool. We want to find where our students are at, what their ability levels are, what they can do independently, what they can do with instruction, and maybe some stretch goals that we're reaching. The third principle is continuous improvement. We want to make sure that we're constantly moving in the right direction, that we do these assessments a few times a year to check where we're at and make sure that what we're doing and where we're going is appropriate. Then the fourth principle is making sure that our assessments are not taking over all of our instruction. As classroom educators, we want to make sure that our instruction is not just assessment, or teaching in order for the students to achieve the assessment. We want to make sure that our curriculum and our instruction is separate of assessment, but also utilizing the assessment results. And then the fifth principle is effective assessments, making sure that we use valid and reliable assessments. A lot of assessments, there are validity issues or biases that are within them, but choosing the right valid and reliable assessments that are reaching our population that we're teaching. If we have a lot of ELs or SPED students, we want to make sure that we're using the right assessments to obtain the right data. The next step in that are 4 types of reading assessments. So we have outcome assessments. These are the assessments that are given by teachers to whole classes and group instruction. Ongoing assessments that we use either weekly, daily, monthly, but given to the entire classroom. Then there's screening assessments. These are just for individual students. These are trying to find out how that student is doing, not as a whole class, but as an individual. Then the next group of assessments are diagnostic assessments, in-depth information. This goes a little deeper. These might be for students who are struggling, EL students, special education students. They just dive deeper and more specific into details within the areas that the students are, that we're trying to find out about our students. And then the fourth type of reading assessment is a progress monitoring assessment. And these encompass all the assessments that teachers are using, and we just utilize a system that encompasses all of these assessments. So when we're looking at assessments too, as we were speaking of the different types of assessments, this is where we dive in to the different levels that our students are at. So we can have tier 1 students. These are all of our students on the campus. These are our students in the classroom. They're moving along and hitting most of their milestones and following through. Then we have our tiers 2, supplemental intervention. These are our students that might be starting to fall behind. We use certain assessments to make sure, these are more of those individual assessments as well as outcome assessments. But we're really diving in because these students might be starting to fall behind a little bit. And so we want to get those assessments and catch these students before they get too far behind. Then we have our tier 3 assessments, and these are our intensive intervention. These are our students. We're really looking at them individually. We're doing those diagnostic tests. We're really working with these students because they are now 2 or more years behind. These are kids who are students who are probably special education students or possible special education students. They're on our radar, and we're doing lots of intensive intervention, remedial things to just get them closer and even on a track to learn. So with that said, on assessments, we also, one important thing that really the article touched on, the chapter 10 touched on it, but our article touched on it as well, was assessing the learner. So when we do our assessments, an important assessment a lot of times that we might forget about is making sure that that we're assessing our learner, that we're making sure that we assess the attitudes of our learner, and also like their independent backgrounds. We want to make sure that we understand, especially in literacy, what activities they are interested in. What can we catch their attention in? We want to make sure that we are teaching our kids literacy, and the best way to help students with literacy is to help them fall in love with literacy. We want them to love it. We want them to be hooked. So the best way is to engage their interests. You know, what are their backgrounds? Are the things that the books and stories and all types of writings that we're doing, are these things that our students like? Do they want to know about them? You know, and also some assessments we might use for this are like self-engagement assessments. We might do a parent assessment, like a parent survey, find more about them that way. Make sure we do community walks. We want to make sure that our students, that we engage in their community, and then also, you know, expand on their community, but we want to meet them where they're at. And then of course, we want to make sure that we make sure where our students are at in their attitude. Do they like this? Are they engaged? What is their effort level that they're putting out? Because we need to find them where they're at on their activity and engagement, and we want to make sure that we reach them and help them move forward with changing maybe their attitudes with literacy. So as a special education educator, all of these assessments, when I started learning about these assessments, we do assessments for special education. We do assessments on yearly, triannual assessments, initial assessments, monthly. We do them for, just touch base. But I think of assessments with special education, and those are more of the diagnostic assessments where we're really digging deep. We want to find out all the intricacies of where our students are, what they can do, and then building off what they can do to, bridge those gaps. But I never really thought about, I think I might have thought about some assessments as just getting through them, doing them to do them. But with all of our students, not just special education students, not just ELs, but all of our students, assessments are important. It shows us for all of them to learn what can they do, where are they, what deficits do they have. And I really love how all of these assessments that we've been doing are digging really deep and very specific to give us a clear path of where to reach, not just doing a reading record because we have to do one at the beginning of the year, but doing that to see where are my students at? What mistakes are they making when they're reading? What can I do to, even my proficient readers, what small thing can we do to help them get even better? What types of books can we read with them? If we do just a reading inventory and do the questions with them, hey, what type of books do you like? We read a lot of books like this. Do you like those? Do you want to learn those? All of our information texts we're going to be reading this year are on, X. Do you like that? Are you interested in that? What would you like to do if we can do some other ones outside of the box? So it's really neat with assessments and learning all the intricacies and how they interconnect with our students on ways to make our students love literacy. And the more they love literacy, the better they will want to work and do these things. And how these assessments aren't just tests but are things that we can really use to help them and to help us help them and to help them understand their strengths when it comes to literacy. All right, guys, have a great week.